Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Samsaradava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Praptasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Seno Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Romanchakam Pasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Romanchakam Pasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Niramajanado Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Niramajanado Jukta Sabhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Satvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Satvana Triptan Kritvaiva Tripti Bhajato Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Radhikama Davayoraparam Madhura Leela Guna Rupanamna Madhura Leela Pratikshana Swam Danalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Pratikshana Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bhiri Juktir Apekshaniya Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bhiri Tatrati Daksha Pativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Tatratidacha Pativalavasya Sakshardharitena Samasta Shashri Uktastathava Yataiva Sadhavi Sakya Tu prabhoja priya eva tasya vande gorashi charanara vrindam kintu prabhoja priya eva tasya vande yasya prasada bhagavat prasada Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yayam stupam tasya Yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Ine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatyadi Shatarine Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Shunyavadi Patatadi Shata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Yaraya Namah Krishna, Jadavaya Namah. Jadavaya Madhavaya Krishavaya Namah. Hare Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudam. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Vishnu Paramahansa Prabhupada Astottara Sarasishima. His Divine Grace of Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि सांस्तवकाचर वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन शैल प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरिया गुरु वर्गापति तो उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुरु सतगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंतपुरी वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो से कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवसरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम नाम संकीर्तने जनाक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन स्मन गुरु चैतन्य महाप्रभु गुरु हरि महावरणावतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। जुग धर्म हरि कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गोविंदा राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूम वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। द लॉर्डशिप शिष्य राधा नील माधव की जय। शिष्य मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण शिष्य गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न अविनाशन कर सिंहरे भगवान की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। जगंगा माय जमुना माय की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री मति राधा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी परमानंदे। All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Gauranga Hari.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Prahlada Lada Daine.
Prahlada Daine.
Hiranya Kashi Purvakshaha. Hito Nasimha Parato Nasimho. Yato Yato Yamitato Nasimha.
Jata Jata Jamitato Nisimha.
Bahir Nasimha Hirahe Nasimha.
Bahir Nisimha Hirahe Nisimha.
Narasimham Adi Sharanam Aprade.
Narasimham Adi Sharanam Aprade.
Tava Kara Kamalavari Nakam Abhuda Shenga Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanabrenga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tabakara Kamala Hare Nakam
Tabakara Kamala Hare
Nakam Abhuda Shenga Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanabrenga Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त
लक्ष्मी नरसिंह स्वामी की जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय
श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारि देवी सतवताय नमः वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारि देवी सतवताय नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारि देवी सतवताय नमः श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण से बापावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
हे तुम्हारा शरण लाए तारा वांछा पूर्ण होए
जे तुम्हार शरणाना तारा वांछा पूर्ण
कृपा कोरी करो तारे वृंदावनवासी
तुम्हें कृपा करे करतरे वृंदावनवासी
मोराइया विलास विलास कुंज दियावा
मोरा या विलास
युगल रूपरासी
Aminayane Revosada Jugala Rupara Asi
हे निवेदनदारा सकीरनुगाता कोरा
Nivedanadara Sakirayano Katakoro
सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी
Tumi kripa kare karotare Vrindavana vasi
दीन कृष्ण दास कोई नमोरा होय
Dina Krishna Raseko Hey Namora
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नबासी
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yenavasi
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नबासी
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yenavasi
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
Yani Kani Sapapane Brahmatyari Kani Sa Tani Tani Pranasanti Parakshina Pare Pare
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
Yani Kani Sapapane Brahmatyari Kani Sa Tani Tani Pranasanti Parakshina Pare Pare
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
Yani Kani Sapapane Brahmatyari Kani Sa Tani Tani Pranasanti Parakshina Pare Pare
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol.
वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय।
Shri Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo. Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own met servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kestakam ki jai. Namo Mahavadannaya Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Chaitanya, Namini Gaura Krishna. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of a conditional life of period birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the primary indication for humanity at large. God is praised raised at the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord and strong in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I'm fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please bring me out from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. Will my voice choke up, and will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri 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 Gastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blasphemy. Devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, the Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the known Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. Blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation of the name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious spiritualistic activities which offer in Vedas as fruitive activity, karma. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even if understanding so many instructions on this matter. It's also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls.
Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya tam vayalitarataschatirsa vigyaswarat Tene brahmarudaya adhikavaye mojanti jasuraya
Tejo vari madam yata vinimayo yatrati sargomisha
Tejo varimridan jata vinimayo jatra trisargomrisya
Damna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dimahi
Dhamna svena sada nirahastakuhakam satyang param dhimahi.
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O all-pervading personality of
I
Godhead.
offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction to manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It's she only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living
By
being.
him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they
I
are
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri
Who is
Krishna.
eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material
Which
world.
is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute.
Dharma projita kaitravocha.
Dharma prajita kaitavutra.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Paramo nirmasharanam
Vedyam
satam.
vastava matra vastu.
Vedyam vastavamasta vastu.
Shivadam tapa trayon bhuvanam.
Shivadam tapo trayomulanam.
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Kim va purer Ishvaraha.
Kim va parishvara.
Sadyo hridi avarudyate tra.
Sadhyaridya varidya titra.
Kriti bihi susu subis takshanam.
Kritivhi shushushubhistatkyana.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are material.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
They have their reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such truth uproot the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in maturity
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
is sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively, submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpaturur galitam phalam
Nigama kalpat palam
sukumukad amrita dravya samyutam
Sukamakharamridadrava Sangita.
pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam
Pivata Bhagavatam Rasamaya.
muhur ahoratska bhavibhavakaha.
Mura Hurisika Vibhavaka.
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
the mature fruit of the desired tree Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this food has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectar juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice is already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna
Shavatam Swakata Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Punya Stravana Kirtana
Hiryantak Stohi Upadrani
Vidyantasto Hyabhadrani
Vidunati Suhit Satam.
Vidunati Suri Satam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from the Vedic
or to
literature,
hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's
acts
heart,
as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee constantly engaged in hearing.
Nasta presu bhadresu
Nasta Praesha Bhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Siva
bhagavati uttamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloki
bhaktir bhavati naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops dormant transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Amalobhadayasya
chita etar anavidam
Chitaitar Navidam
stifam sattve prasidati.
Sitam Sadve Prasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional
one
service,
becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes free from the modes of passion or ignorance.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
And as material lusts and avarice are diminished,
Evam prasana manaso
Evam Prasanna Manas
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnana
Mukta Sanghasya Jayate.
Mukta Sanghasya Jaya.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped away,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional
and
service,
understands the science of God first perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis,
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis,
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya,
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya,
Siyante Chasikarmani,
Chidyante Sachakarmani,
Drista Evatmanishvare.
Krista Evadmanishvari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga severs the hardness of material affection
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables one to come at once to the stage of Samshanshamagramam,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna, from his devotees in Krishna consciousness,
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 34. Isasya san vidur ambuvahan
Isha Shaketan Vidur Ambuha
vasastu sandhyam kuruvarya bhumna
Vastastu Sandhyam Kuruvarya Bhuna
avyaktamahur hridayam manascha
Avyaktamahur Rudayam Manascha
sachandrama sarva vikara kosha.
Sachandrama Sarva Vikara Kosha.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O best amongst the Kurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs on his head. The terminations of days or nights are his dress. And the supreme cause of material creation is his intelligence. His mind is the moon, the reservoir of all changes. Text 35. Vijnana Saktim Mahim Amananti
Vijnana Shakti Mahim Amananti
Sarvatmanodnata Karanam Giritram
Sarvad Manunta Karanam Giritram
Asvasvatari Ustragajanakani
Aswasvatari Ustra Karama Nakani
Sarve Mriga Pasavasroni Dese.
Sarve Mriga Pashavashroni Deshe.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The principle of matter, Mahat Tattva, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord, as asserted by the experts. And Rudra Deva is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephant are his nails, and wild animals and all quadrupeds are situated in the belt zone of the Lord. Text 36. Vayam sitadvya karanam vichitram
Vayam sitadvya karanam vichitram
manur manisha manujo nivasa
Manor manisha manujo nivasa
Gandharva vidya daracharana pasara
Gandharva vidyadara charanapshara
swara smritir asurani kavirya.
Swara smritir asurani kavirya.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Varieties of birds are indications of his masterful artistic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human beings, like the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels, all represent his musical rhythm, and the demoniac soldiers are representatives of his wonderful prowess. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The aesthetic sense of the Lord is manifested in the artistic, colorful creation of varieties of birds like the peacock, parrot, and cuckoo. The celestial species of human beings like the Gandharvas and the Vidyadharas can sing wonderfully and can entice even the minds of the heavenly demigods. Their musical rhythm represents the musical sense of the Lord. How then can he be impersonal? His musical taste, artistic sense, and standard intelligence, which is never fallible, are different signs of his supreme authority, personality. The Manu Samhita is the standard law book for humanity, and every human being is advised to follow this great book of social science. Human society is the residential quarters for the Lord. This means that the human being is meant for God realization and association with God. This life is a chance for the conditioned soul to regain his eternal God consciousness and thus fulfill the mission of life. Maharaj Prahlada is the right type of representative of the Lord in the family of Asuras. None of the living beings is away from the Lord's gigantic body. Each and every one has a particular duty in relation to the supreme body. Disruption in the matter of discharging the specific duty engaged to each and every living being is the cause of disharmony. Let me read that again. Disruption in the matter of discharging the specific duty assigned to each and every living being is the cause of disharmony between one living being and another. But when the relation is reestablished in relation with the Supreme Lord, there is complete unity between all living beings, even up to the limit of the wild animals and human society. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed this living unity in the jungle of Madhya Pradesh, where even the tigers, elephants, and many other ferocious animals perfectly cooperated in glorifying the Supreme Lord. That is the way to peace and amity all over the world. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So people, in order to be happy, they need peace. And in order to attain love, they also need happiness. So peace, happiness, and love are connected in some progressive way. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita, which says, Nasta buddhir ayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayatak santirat asantasya kutasukam. Okay, so there was one thing missing in that progression, so let's start again. So it says, Nasti buddhir ayuktasya. There cannot be transcendental intelligence for one who's not connected with Krishna consciousness. And for one who's devoid of Krishna consciousness, one cannot have a fixed mind in happiness. Nor, for one whose mind is not fixed, cannot have peace. And without peace, there's no chance of happiness. So this is a progressive thing, and it begins with having a connection to Krishna. So this explains the progression in a negative way. So nasti buddhir, na asti, means if there cannot be transcendental intelligence, then one does not have connection with Krishna. And then, without a connection with Krishna, one cannot have fixed mind in happiness. And unless one has a fixed mind in happiness, there cannot be peace. And without peace, one cannot have happiness. And then, when one has all these things, they can develop their love for Krishna. See, a person who's not happy, it's impossible for them to be a successful preacher. So, how do they become happy? Well, they have to be peaceful. How do they become peaceful? They need to have some connection to Krishna. And how do they have a connection to Krishna? They've been blessed with transcendental knowledge. So this is a progressive thing. And if people understand this, then they have a chance to have a significant life in this world and attain the goal of life, which is to be constantly thinking of Krishna. If you're constantly thinking of Krishna, you're a liberated person, whether you're in the material world or the spiritual world. So this was a symptom of the residents of Vaikuntha and the residents of Goloka. In one way or another, their mind is fixed on Krishna. They can't separate, they can't deviate the mind from constant thoughts of the Lord. Now, we do have the example of Kamsa. He was constantly thinking of the Lord out of fear and constantly meditating on how to kill him. So that's not favorable meditation, O Lord. That's unfavorable meditation. So there is a difference between Kamsa and the wives of Krishna, or the cowherd boys, or Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda Maya, or the cowherd girls, because they are thinking favorably about Krishna, and Kamsa is thinking unfavorably about him. But still he can attain liberation because from the cycle of birth and death, because he has his mind fixed on Krishna, even though it is in a negative way. That means that Krishna is all good. He purifies everyone, the sinner as well as the devotee. And just like the sun can purify dirty things without being affected by it. The sun can dry up stool and urine and make them non-contaminated. They can make them purified and without becoming contaminated. The same way Krishna can do that too. It's called prophylactic and antiseptic. And antiseptic purifies things, and prophylactic protects things from getting sick. So, therefore, Krishna, in his universal form, manifests many amazing things. Like everything is contained in the universal form. So there's all kinds of varieties of birds which demonstrate his artistic sense. So when you see a peacock or a hummingbird, I mean, you're amazed by the colors of the body and the tenderness and the subtlety of the body. A hummingbird can remain in one place in the air without flying away and drink nectar. So it's like a miracle. It's like very hard. It'd be very hard to control a helicopter like that. Although helicopters can stand still while in the air, but the hummingbird can do that in an amazing way and for a long period of time. So there are many wonderful things in the material world when we begin to look for them, and the way we decide to look for them is when we read about them in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam has everything, you know, and but the whole purpose of it is to fix the mind on Krishna. So, Prabhupada says here, disruption in the matter of discharging the specific duty assigned to each and every living being is the cause of disharmony between one living being and another. But when the relation is reestablished in relation with the Supreme Lord, there is complete unity between all living beings, even up to the limit of the wild animals and human society. Well, wow, that would be great. The tigers, and they never attacked human beings. So that would be almost like bugs and all kinds of things. So if this is possible, Prabhupada explains in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains that by pride, artificial or real pride, is incapable of performing austerity. Much affect one's cleanliness is destroyed, and too much addiction to intoxication, one's tendency of being merciful is destroyed, and by too much fullness is destroyed. So meat eating just agitates the senses and the mind and contaminates them. So we see there's correlation of things and dealers of sinful activity. In other words, illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. Prabhupada, the Department of, in other words, people begin to take these four principles and they don't cooperate. So you begin to understand how the material life is explained in detail, and especially showing what destroys the happiness, peace, and it's these four principles: intoxication, meat eating, and illicit sections, and they can become free of false pride. They become steady. They learn tolerant and forgiving, and they are very needs almost to nil. They don't minimum material needs, and they maximize the time for spiritual life. Being sentimental is not of transcendental knowledge. So when the Lord, but intensely meditating on chapter 30 of the Krishna book, and it's about Krishna's hide from the company of the gopis. They searched for him everywhere, anywhere. They became afraid of pastimes of Krishna in great love, absorbed in thought of him. They began to see the very with them, his embracing, kissing, and other activities. Being so attracted to Krishna, due to Krishna's absence, they all became crazy, each one of them to himself. Soon they all sang Krishna's name very loudly. Actually, Krishna is within the heart, and he is always everywhere. The gopis therefore began to question about Krishna. There were plants in the forest, and the gopis addressed him. Dear Nanda, passing this way, laughing and playing on his flute, which way he has gone. Dear Ashoka tree, dear Naga flower tree, and Champaka flower tree, have you seen the young? He has disappeared because of our pride. The reason for Krishna's sudden disappearance. They could thought themselves to be the most fortunate, and since they were feeling Krishna does not like his devotee him, he accepts everyone's service, but he does not like one devotee to proudly consider himself better than others, if sometimes toward the devotee. The gopis then address the tulsi plants. This line is extremely important. It says, if sometimes there are such feelings, Krishna ends them by changing his attitude. Tulsi plants. Dear Tulsi, you are much beloved by Lord Krishna because your leaves are always at his lotus feet. Dear Malati flower, dear Malika flower, dear jasmine flower, by Krishna while he was passing, they're giving us transcendental enjoyment. Have you seen Madhava path? O pear trees and asan trees. O jackfruit, O pear trees, O blackberries, and bale trees, and trees from the kadamba flower. You are all very pious trees to be living. Must have passed through this way. Will you kindly let us know which way he passed? The gopis then looked up upon the ground, earthly planet. Know how many penances and austerities are living with the footprints of Lord. You are very jolly. The hairs on the body, trees and plants. Lord Krishna with you. Otherwise, how could he have embraced you in the form of Varaha, the boar, taking the whole weight of your existence on his tusks? After addressing the innumerable trees and plants on the earth, they turned their faces toward the beautiful deer who were looking at them very pleasingly. It appears, they addressed the deer, that Krishna, who is the supreme Narayana himself, must have passed through this way along with his companion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Otherwise, of his garland, the aroma smeared with red coat of the goddess of fortune can be perceived in the breeze blowing here. It appears that they must have passed through here and touched your bodies, and then are looking toward us with sympathy. Will you kindly, therefore, inform us which way Krishna has gone? Krishna is the well-wisher of Vrindavana. He is as kind to you as to us. Therefore, and he is as kind as to us. He must have been present in your company. O fortunate trees, we are thinking of Krishna, the younger brother of Balarama, with one hand resting on the shoulder of the goddess of fortune's flower. He must have been very much pleased to accept your obeisances, and he must have glanced at you with great pleasure. Okay, so this is where the gopis are manifest for the Lord, and how does the Lord? They can't divert their mind to anything else. They're completely focused on Krishna. And every little detail about Krishna is their, let's say, sustenance or food that maintains them alive. And there are infinite aspects of Krishna. He's not limited in any way. So therefore, the gopis continual meditation on the Lord is possible. And it's possible for us also. When we lose attraction to mundane material things and build up our attraction to transcendental subjects, like the pastimes of the Lord, as we're reading about now. So that state of mind of complete contemplation on the Lord is the symptom of a pure devotee. So, therefore, Krishna says, Yoginam apisarve samad gatanantaratmana shadamam vajate yomam same yuktatamo matak. And of all the yogis, the karma yogis, the jnana yogis, the astanga yogis, and bhakti yogis, the bhakti yogi is the best because of his unalloyed devotion to the Lord and constant contemplation of the Lord with feelings of affection and love. So it says, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So, point one here is one has great faith in the Lord. And point two is always abides, always depends on the Lord. It's completely dependent on the Lord. And number three, always thinks of the Lord. And number four, always engaged in devotional service. Those are the four requisite qualities to become a pure devotee. Or what does that mean, pure devotee? The devotee is intimately united in yoga. So, Prabhupada writes, the word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, which is used when there is need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is not a contemplative thing. It's an active thing. We were speaking about that yesterday also. The devotee is always active, always engaged in activities directed toward pleasing the Lord through the instructions of the spiritual master. Worship means to adore, to show respect and honor to a worthy one, but service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what it means. Service with love and faith is direct Krishna consciousness as opposed to ritualized spiritual activity. Ritualized spiritual activity is meant to please the Lord also, but because one is not as intensely involved in the activity of a ritual, it's mostly like for example, you go to a Christian church, you're a spectator. You're not actively involved. It's the priests and the priest's assistants that are actively involved. And if you go to a puja, you're not actively involved again. You're a spectator, mostly, except for the yajaman, the person who's paying for the puja. So they're somewhat actively involved. The priest is the one that's really actively involved. But the yajaman or the let's say the person who has asked for the ritual to be performed for a certain purpose, they're somewhat involved. But whenever you have these big ritual performances in public, like in India, the audience is not involved. They're just spectators. But in devotional service, it's activity, constant activity. Waking up, bathing, coming to Mangala Aarti, chanting, dancing. All these things are active, worshiping the deity, cooking for the deity, cleaning the temple. All these are actions. And therefore, there's a saying, tell me, I'll forget. Teach me, I might remember something. Engage me, I'll never forget. So this is full engagement, 24 hours a day. That's called direct Krishna consciousness, as opposed to simply performing rituals, right? So it says, but service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshiping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam 11.5.3 confirms this as follows. Ya es sampurisham shakshad atma prabhavam ishwaram abhajat avachananti stanat brasta patantyada. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. So, direct Krishna consciousness is activity, very intense activity all the time to please the Lord. And what inhibits or obstructs that activity? Meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. Any form of intoxication. Coffee, tea, pan, ganja, and different drugs, and so forth. And these four principles lead to arguing, and developing of feelings like hatred and envy and jealousy. So whenever there's envy, it destroys preaching completely. So we can see that this would be a description, a very good description of the corporate culture. In corporate culture, you have all these things going on. There's arguing going on. There's enviousness, there's jealousy, there's non-cooperation. Although they have seminars on how to cooperate, and they play games, you know. Let's break into little groups, and each group has a particular subject, and then there should be a leader of that group, and then once you come to some conclusions, you write it down on this on the board or the paper, and we'll accumulate or get all this information, and then we'll make a strategy based on this. You know, they play these games. You know, they have these coaches that come and teach you how to cooperate. Is that right? Right. It's all nonsense, complete nonsense. Because how can people cooperate if after they take the seminar, then they go and drink some beer and smoke a cigarette, eat a hamburger, and then have sex? No, this doesn't work. And because of this, there are wars. Wars are, you know, war is big corporate culture, huge corporate culture. You know, and when the Nazis invaded Russia, Russians had over 10,000 tanks. Can you imagine that? And they had thousands of airplanes. And the Germans also had a lot of tanks, but not as many as the Russians. And they also had, Russians had 5 million soldiers in their army. The Germans had about, I would say, at least 3 million soldiers, right? But they had superior, you know, tanks and airplanes. But eventually, the massiveness of the Russian army and their equipment and the fanaticism of Stalin eventually defeated the Germans. And of course, the Russian winter defeated the Germans. But you see, this is the gigantic corporate culture, right? When you like England joined with the United States and other allies, and they invaded, Normandy with hundreds and thousands of airplanes and tanks and trucks and soldiers, a huge number. And they eventually defeated the Germans in the West, and the Russians eventually defeated the Germans in the East. And Germany was decimated, destroyed, almost the whole German population. I mean, at least, I think it's at least, was it 500,000 or 1 million German citizens, not fighters, citizens were killed. And then as far as fighters, just in the Russian front, 1 million, over 1 million German soldiers were killed. That's just in the Eastern Front. And also they lost hundreds and thousands of soldiers on the Western Front. And it's amazing that Germany it continued to exist after that war. It was only because the United States was able to take most of Germany over, and Russia took one part of Germany, the United States took a bigger part, and the United States spent a huge amount of money rebuilding Germany. So the German nation survived, but it was very close to being extinct. In fact, Hitler, right at the end, when he saw everything was going to be lost, he told his soldiers, "Who doesn't matter who you shoot at this point. You can shoot German citizens also. Just kill everybody." See, so Hitler was definitely a Rakshasa. Definitely a Rakshasa on the level of not as great as Ravana and Kamsa, but he was up there, And so was Stalin. Stalin was also a Rakshasa. So was Mao Zedong. He was a Rakshasa. And many entertainers and politicians, they're Rakshasas. They're not ordinary human beings. And what do Rakshasas do? They kill people. They kill not just a few people, massive numbers of people. So at least 55 million people were killed in World War II. Okay, so therefore the gopis go much further into this type of madness, craziness, let's call it, but it's not destructive. It's very, very transcendental. So they're talking to the flowers, they're talking to the trees, and then the gopis then looked upon the ground they were traversing and began to address the earth. "Dear earthly planet, we do not know how many penances and austerities you have undergone to be now living with the footprints of Lord Krishna upon you. You are very jolly. The hairs on your body are these jubilant trees and plants. Lord Krishna must have been very much pleased with you, otherwise how could he have embraced you in the form of Varaha, the boar? When you were submerged in the water, he delivered you, taking the whole weight of your existence on his tusks. After addressing the innumerable trees and plants and the earth, they turned their faces toward the beautiful deer who were looking at them very pleasingly. It appears," they addressed the deer, "that Krishna, who is the supreme Narayana himself, must have passed through this way along with his companion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Otherwise, how is it possible that the aroma of his garland, which is smeared with the red kunkuma from the breasts of the goddess of fortune, can be perceived in the breeze blowing here?" So the gopis' ability to experience things is amazing. When you experience the fine odor in the breeze and and recognize it as Krishna's or Lakshmi's odor, that means that they are extremely sensitive, right, to all kinds of stimuluses related to Krishna. It appears that they must have passed through here and touched your bodies, and thus you are feeling so pleasant and are looking toward us with sympathy. Will you kindly, therefore, inform us which way Krishna has gone? Krishna is the well-wisher of Vrindavana. He is as kind to you as to us. Therefore, after leaving us, he must have been present in your company. O fortunate trees, we are thinking of Krishna, the younger brother of Balaram, while passing through here with one hand resting on the shoulder of the goddess of fortune and the other hand twirling a lotus flower. He must have been very much pleased to accept your obeisances, and he must have glanced at you with great pleasure. Then some of the gopis then address their gopi friends. Dear friends, why don't you question these creepers who are so jubilantly embracing the big trees as if the trees were their husbands? It appears that the flowers of the creepers must have been touched by the nails of Krishna. Otherwise, how could they feel so jubilant? After searching for Krishna here and there, the gopis became fatigued, and then they began to talk like mad women. They could satisfy themselves only by imitating the different pastimes of Krishna. One of them imitated the demon Putana, and one of them imitated Krishna and sucked her breast. One gopi imitated a hand-driven cart, and another gopi lay down beneath the cart and threw up her legs, touching the wheels of the cart, as Krishna did to kill the demon Sakatasura. One gopi imitated child Krishna and lay down on the ground, and one gopi became the demon Trinavarta and carried the small child Krishna by force into the sky, and one of the gopis began to imitate Krishna while he was attempting to walk, ringing his ankle bells. Two gopis imitated Krishna and Balarama, and many others imitated their cowherd boyfriends. One gopi assumed the form of Bakasura, and another forced her to fall down as the demon Bakasura did when he was killed. Similarly, another gopi defeated Vatsasura. Just as Krishna used to call his cows by their different names, so the gopis imitated him, calling the cows by their respective names. One of the gopis began to play on a flute, and another praised her the way Krishna's boyfriends praised him while he played on his flute. One of the gopis took another gopi on her shoulders, just as Krishna used to take his boyfriends. Absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, the gopi, who was carrying her friend, began to boast that she was Krishna herself. All of you just see my movement. One of the gopis raised her hand with her covering garments and said, "Now, don't be afraid of the torrents of rain and severe hurricanes. I'll save you." In this way, she imitated the lifting of Govardhan Hill. One gopi forcibly put her feet on the head of another gopi and said, "You rascal Kaliya, I shall punish you severely. You must leave this place. I have descended to this earth to punish all kinds of miscreants." Another gopi told her friends, "Just see, the flames of the forest fire are coming to devour us. Please close your eyes, and I shall immediately save you from this imminent danger." So we see the intense, absolutely intense contemplation of the gopis and enactment of Krishna's pastimes in order to placate somewhat their anxiety in not seeing Krishna. This is much more intense than the wives of Krishna, although they already intensely loved the Lord. But this goes to a much higher level. So we see, it just keeps going on and on, of showing how much they love Krishna and they can't take their mind off of Krishna. And in the end, it says, when they saw that it was getting gradually darker, they stopped. Their mind and intelligence became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. They all imitated the activities of Krishna and his speeches. Due to their heart and soul being completely given to Krishna, they began to chant his glories, completely forgetting their family interests. In this way, all the gopis returned to the bank of the Yamuna and assembled there, and expecting that Krishna must return to them. they seemingly engaged in chanting the glories of Sri Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 13th chapter of Krishna. Krishna's hiding from the gopis. So you see, they end the day off by chanting Hare Krishna. So, in other words, it never ends. It just keeps going on, and it's full of bliss. So, I wanted to talk about this a little bit because to show the different levels of intensity of love for Krishna between the wives of Krishna in Dwarka and the gopis in Vrindavan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions? Yes.
How can we develop that love, or at least some percentage of love like the gopis?
By active service. Say, gopis are always engaged in active service. That's why Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is active service with love and affection. So we should be always a humble servant of the Lord and never be proud, thinking, oh, now I have conquered the Lord. As soon as the devotee becomes proud, Krishna leaves. So, but as long as the devotee remains humble and affectionate and always engaged in the service, the Lord is present and is always protecting the devotee and blessing the devotee with more and more abilities to serve him. Okay? Active service. So, if someone says, oh, I don't have any time to do service, I have to study for my Bhakti Shastri course. Well, that is also a type of service, of course, but the active service of the gopis is always serving the comfort and pleasure of Krishna, right? So when you're performing arti, you're offering different articles that are pleasing to the Lord. When you bathe the Lord, when you dress the Lord, when you cook for the Lord, when you sing for the Lord, where you preach for the Lord. These are all active forms of active service. So the devotee never goes away from service. They always go towards service. And once they do a certain service, they never give it up. Therefore, they can add more service, but they never diminish service. Because service is the way that we connect to Krishna. Okay? Whether it's chanting your rounds, coming to Mangala Aarti, going on Sankirtan, preaching, cooking, chanting glories of the Lord, chanting, dancing. All these things are meant to please the Lord. So the more you're active, and to be active, you have to be self-controlled, not eat too much, not sleep too much, not sleep too little, not eat too little. You have to be balanced and regulated, and so that you have this energy to be active. So you can see Prabhupada was virtually active right to the last moment of his life. Or the last moments of life, he was still dictating translations of the Bhagavatam and purports. There's a video of it. Right? So that's the quality that keeps you connected to Krishna, and when Krishna sees that quality, he protects the devotee and gives the devotee knowledge and revelation. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.